Hello and welcome back to BSA Talks. We're going to be a little bit different today. I'm going to talk about something that is to me extremely important and that helps shape what I am. And I thought I would communicate it with you. As usual, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and politely comment. I have found in an increasingly long life that the surest way to trigger the professionally tolerant is to tell them you believe in God. I have been called stupid, old-fashioned, the follower of a flying spaghetti monster, and a lot worse things like that when I have said that to people who don't agree with me. I did not always believe in God. I came to that belief for much of the same reasons that I am a scientist. I believe that belief in a divinity is the most consistent thing that explains what humans are and what the world is and how the world works and why the world has a structure and pattern to it. A person could have different opinions and still be an honest, intellectually honest person. But I happen to think that they're wrong in the sense that they are believing something that is not factually correct and not in correspondence with the way the universe actually is, and two, that they have an extremely defective worldview. The materialist, atheistic worldview doesn't even explain atheists and materialists, much less explain much else. I hope to be able to justify these beliefs as we go along today. Perhaps the most common epithet I have gotten is stupid. Never mind that I have degrees from Stanford and Yale. Never mind that I have 70 or more patents in high-tech fields. Never mind that I have started high-tech companies and run them successfully. I'm stupid because I believe in an old book and that what it tells me is true. Well, so be it. Then I'm stupid. Maybe I am a fool, but I don't think so. I will be upfront. I do believe that belief in God is the logical conclusion from observing the universe. And I say that as a scientist. I know there are scientists who disagree with me. There are scientists that agree with me. That's not the point. I will give you some of the arguments that have convinced me. What is a science? A science is a series of statements about the world that must be consistent, meaning if you start at one point in the theory or another point in the theory, you can't work to contradictory things. That's not how science works. Number two, that where it touches upon the real world and makes predictions about the real world, it obviously has to match what happens in the real world. Those two are the essence of a scientific theory. But there's something else I knew very early on about science, and that it is not complete. There are many things about human beings in particular that science does not explain. Science cannot deal with the deeper questions of life. Why is there life? Why is there death? What happens when we die? It can't deal with those because that's not the subject of science. So the subject of science is the material world, and it does a wonderful job of explaining that. But my point in following science today is not to argue that science proves the existence of God, or for that matter, disproves the existence of God. Science shows that there is a mind behind the universe. Wherever else in normal life we see order and things holding together and being consistent, even when we don't expect them to be, we find that there's a mind that has set up the ordering. Why should the universe itself be different from that? One of the primary reasons that I believe in God is, as a physicist, the more I study quantum mechanics and special and general relativity and mathematics, the more it looks like the universe is modeled on a pattern, and that pattern is the creation of an intelligent mind. A theory is not a narrative you tell yourself. Reality is not a narrative you tell yourself. A theory about the universe looks outside. It looks at the way the universe is built, and it says, does what I believe correspond with what I actually observe to be taking place? A theory of the universe must be falsifiable. It must be possible to disprove it. If everything supports the theory, it's not a valid theory. You have to be able to disprove it. So, I bring to you an argument that I was presented with very early on by a set of Thomistic Catholic Christians. And that was those three things that I demand of a theory: that it matches the universe where it makes predictions, that it's internally self-consistent, and that it is falsifiable, also apply to the Christian religion and to religion in general. I'm not going to make any argument about a specific religion today. I'll make that at a different time. But those three things hold for a religious view too. Does the behavior of people, does the behavior of the material universe resonate consistently with theism? I believe it does. Does it, can you disprove it? Yes, there would be experiments you could do that prove, for example, that nobody rose from the dead. We invent a time machine, we go back and look, and we find out. That's falsifiable. Is it consistent? Well, 2,000 years of constructing brilliant arguments on multiple philosophical systems have not found a contradiction within the teachings of the Christian Church or within the teachings of any of the major religions. They may disagree with what happens in the physical world, but once you're in the religion itself, they are all consistent. And that is a sign of an ordered system and an ordered mind to me. There's another way in which I find the universe remarkable, and that is its consistency with what is required for life. There are 26 constants that we know of in physical nature, and so far as we know, none of them are related to any of the others. In other words, one doesn't cause another. 26 independent constants. Those constants turn out to be unbelievably fine-tuned for the existence of life. Take, for example, the strong nuclear force that holds together atoms. If the strong nuclear force was 5% stronger, then protons would bind to protons. All of the hydrogen in the universe would have formed helium in the first few minutes of the universe, and there would be no galaxies, no stars, no life, and no possibility of any of that. That's a perfect example of that. The rate of expansion of the universe. If the rate of expansion of the universe was significantly higher, galaxies would not have formed, and planets would not have formed, and stars would not have formed, because the hydrogen in the early universe would have dispersed too quickly. If the rate of expansion of the universe was significantly less than it is, the universe would long since have collapsed in on itself, and we wouldn't be here for either one. So the only way out of this for the materialist is not, well, all of this happens to be true, and therefore I'm going to believe that all of these constants couldn't have been anything else. That's one possibility. We have no evidence whatsoever that that is true. Or they explain it with the multiverse. All possible values of the physical constants can exist. We happen to live in a universe where they exist consistent with life, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't consistent with life. That's called the Anthropic cosmological principle, and I think it holds a certain amount of merit. But it doesn't hold the merit the materialists think. The multiverse is, so far as I know, the only theory that is consistent with both theistic belief and a belief in a deterministic universe, which is, as the Bible says, and God said and created the world. The world is spoken, it's said, it's definitive. All of those things are possible and consistent within the multiverse. The one thing that materialists try to pull up as defeating it. No, I think the multiverse is not only consistent with theistic view, it may be the only theory that's consistent with a theistic view. Another argument that is constantly brought up by atheists is, how can a loving God do X or allow Y to take place? In other words, the question of evil. Why is there evil in the universe? Not being flippant, but asking the question seriously is, why do you believe that something is evil if you do not believe in an overarching morality? If you do not believe in absolutes, such as the absolute existence of God, and that morality is spoken into the world and exists outside of our heads, if you don't believe that, why do you think there's evil in the world? Unfortunately, an atheist, a materialist, is stuck with, we are nothing but atoms knocking together. So there is no right and wrong. There is only will. And if you question a materialist too closely, you will find that all of their ideas about morality reduce to the I like chocolate ice cream, I don't like chocolate ice cream. I like this, I don't like that. That's not morality. We all know, we all believe that evil is to be opposed and fought. The materialist, the atheist, the believers of all kinds believe that. And that's good that they do so. But the difference is that a theist, a person who believes in God who created the universe, knows why they believe in an absolute morality. The atheist does not. I've never met one who could logically explain it. They say it's because it helps the human race survive, but never explain why I would want the human race to survive. They say it's because that helps you feel better about yourself. Well, first of all, it doesn't. Anybody who's lived on the inside of any of the major world religions knows that quite often it makes you feel really lousy about yourself. The third thing is the form of belief that we see in the world, in the major world religions, is not one I would have invented if I were inventing a religion out of whole cloth. It's something I'm observing outside myself that I have to commit to, even if I don't like it at times. Finally, there's the argument from morality. Not the fact that morality exists, but that it's remarkably consistent across all places and all times. I'll quote something from Lord of the Rings. It's in the Two Towers. "The world is all grown strange. How shall a man judge what to do in such times?" "As he ever has judged," said Aragorn. "Good and ill have not changed since yesteryear. Nor are they one thing among elves and dwarves and another among men. It is merely a man's part to discern them." And I will stand with that. All of those things are built into the universe, so far as I can tell, and that explains why they're so consistent across all places and times. Sure, we may disagree on who our neighbor is. Is it everybody, or is it my immediate family? But we all would support the love your neighbor as yourself. These things, we may differ in details, but the consistency across all morality forms is truly astonishing. In the final analysis, you pays your money and you takes your chances. I believe that that a belief in God is supported by the preponderance of evidence. Is it beyond a reasonable doubt? I think it is, but honest people could believe otherwise. I will again quote from the literature, this time from C.S. Lewis and the Silver Chair. The kids and Puddleglum, the marshwiggle, are arguing with the witch who has got them imprisoned deep underground. And she's trying to convince them that there is no outer world, that there is no Aslan, that there is no sun. And Puddleglum says, "We're just babies making up a game, if you are right. But 4 babies playing a game can make a play world that licks your real world hollow. That's why I'm going to stand by the play world. I'm on Aslan's side, even if there is no Aslan. I am going to live as like a Narnian as I can, even if there isn't any Narnia." Thank you. Now you have some questions.